to a webinar with Mary Vallarta of FAB Counsel. She's going to share some really wonderful tips about preparing your line to meet with buyers and to get some sales. Mary has an online course that is really fascinating and that you can take from anywhere, where you can actually learn all the steps you need to take to prepare your line, to prepare for a meeting, and to actually continue growing a relationship with buyers. So the course is called How to Sell Your Line to Buyers and Retailers. Mary, can you tell us a little bit about your background and explain this course to us?
Sure. Well, my background, I used to be a buyer. That was my background. I started my buying journey within the offices of Macy's. That's where I first started my buying career. And then I moved on to BCBG after that. After BCBG, I worked for Metropark. And that's the company where I learned a ton about not just buying, but a lot of the different sectors of the fashion industry as well. So a lot about visual merchandising, social media, marketing, and I was able to do that since the team was very small. I had to dabble in a lot of different things. So Metropark was definitely a huge part of my career. And then after Metropark, I worked at Bebe. So that's why this online course holds a special place in my heart, because it basically is a compilation of everything that I've learned as a buyer. And I think as a fashion designer, as someone who owns a line, you've got to really understand how buyers think, what buyers look for, how they shop, when they shop, in order for you to be successful to sell to them. And that's what makes this course so great, because I integrate that aspect into it. Another factor that makes this course wonderful is that it's not just all about me. I have a lot of my experience and knowledge in here, but I also added a lot of the knowledge and experience that my colleagues have. So my colleagues from Hot Look, Nasty Gal, Ted Baker, all those great places. These are real industry professionals, you know, with real world experience. So I interviewed them. They were a part of a lot of the workshops that I've done in the past. So like I said, it's not just a lot of my experience, but theirs as well. So that's a little bit of a background of me. After working in buying, I founded FAB Counsel, and FAB Counsel is just all about helping people navigate through the fashion world and helping them succeed in the business of fashion. And this course was actually catapulted from 2 past workshops that we did last year. And the workshop was called How to Sell Your Fashion Line to Buyers. And I had my friends who were buyers from Nasty Gal and Hot Look come and just talk to the audience about this process. And it became such a great hit. We did it 3 times. People were still wanting more. A lot of people from different places all over the world. I had people from Hong Kong, London, asking me if we were going to do something like this in their town. I'm like, maybe not right now, but I'll work on it. Yeah. So I just thought that this is something that a lot of people really need. And not only that, but I wanted to make it really holistic, and I wanted to make sure that it's not just something that can be beneficial or that people can just use at the meeting, but my main goal is to basically help them achieve this long-lasting relationship that they need with buyers, because it's not just about that one sale. It's about those multiple sales, that long-term relationship that you want to create. So that's what this whole course is all about, which is why we go through what to do before the meeting, what to do during the meeting, and what to do after the meeting. So that's a little overview about what it is.
I would imagine, I mean, there's definitely a time when a designer's line is ready for a buyer meeting. What are some things that you can tell our audience that would help them understand when they are ready?
Okay. Well, the first thing that I always ask any new designer is, do they have systems and structures in place within their fashion line? And a lot of times the designers that I talk to who are fairly new, they don't have those systems set up yet. And when I talk about systems, I mean, Do you have a system for how you're going to handle your billing? How are you going to handle your shipping? Do you have a production timeline? You know, who's checking up on all the quality control, making sure that everything you ship is going to be up to par with the standards that you've notified the buyer with? So definitely make sure, especially before you work with department store buyers, that you have procedures and systems that'll make things easier, more organized, to alleviate mistakes in the long term. So that's one of the things that I always make sure to ask designers before they even talk to buyers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the course, you have a step-by-step process of checking off all those things to make sure
Yep.
it's set up properly.
Yes, because before you even think about meeting with a buyer, you've got to make sure that you've got your whole business together. And that's just not about, you know, it's not just about systems and procedures. It's about, do you have a good brand message built into your line? Because if you don't, how are you going to communicate that to a buyer? How are you going to communicate? How is the buyer supposed to communicate that to the stores? And how is the store supposed to communicate that to the customer? You know, it all has to make sense.
Okay.
And that's what we teach. And the course, the way you access the course, or the way the formatting of the course is through video. So we do a lot of, you learn everything through video, and we do it step by step. So we go through what you need to have before you meet with a buyer, as well as knowing the behaviors of buyers. You know, before you meet with a buyer, you've got to know, how do buyers think, when they buy, where do they shop, how to contact them, you know, the best times to contact them, all that stuff. So that's what we talk about in the section or the part before the meeting.
Okay. So once they, give me a couple of ideas on, you know, what's the process for actually getting a meeting?
The process of getting a meeting. Well, number one, you first got to make sure that your line is ready to go, right? You've got to have samples, and on top of that, you've got to have the good marketing collaterals. Anything that will help you sell your line, whether that's lookbooks, any marketing campaigns that you have, that's great. A website, things like that. So making sure that your business is together. Number two is you've got to know which retailers you're after. You can't just go after all of them, because you're not going to match each retailer's aesthetic. You're not going to match each retailer's price point either, because each store has their own unique price point that their customers buy into. So that's second, making sure that you have a retail target list. And then third, before you get a meeting with these buyers, is you've also got to know how to handle yourself, the poise, the flow of the meeting. And I know those are some of the things that you just kind of have to go in there and kind of feel for yourself. But the more prepared you can be, the better, which is why we prep people in this course about the typical questions buyers ask. You know, the typical behaviors and typical behaviors, that buyers usually would do when they're in these meetings, what they expect you to have when you're in there, and how to even put their mind at ease, because that's what you're basically trying to do when you're at these sales meetings, is that the buyer knows you're new. You don't have to lie about that. Just because you're new doesn't mean they're not going to buy from you. What they're looking for is that you know your business, you know your line, and you can assure them that if they do like your line, that you're going to be able to deliver. So that's why we prepare the people who buy this course. That's why we prepare them and make sure that we tell them the typical questions buyers ask, and also how to put their mind at ease and how to address certain hesitations. So if a buyer is saying, oh, I don't know if my customers will like that, or I'm just not sure I like it, but I'm on the fence, we tell you the exact things to say that'll sway them in your favor. Okay. And that's what I mean when I say the more prepared you are, the better the meeting will be, because then you'll have things to tell them to fire off. When they have a hesitation, you'll have something to say. And then they'll be like, okay, that makes sense. So they'll pretty much not have anything like negative if you're prepared, and if you've done your research. Because the buyer can always say, this isn't for my customer, and that's when you know that you probably haven't done the right research, because you identified a retailer that obviously doesn't match your aesthetics. So that's why research is important too.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so you've got your line ready, your process is in place, you've got the meeting with the buyer. Just real quick, like, what's the best way to get a meeting? Are you just like knocking on doors, picking up the phone, emailing? How do you do it?
Well, there's a few different ways, and we go through this in the course. And a lot of them was actually feedback from sales reps themselves, and also a buyer herself. One of my friends, Alicia Allen, who works for Hot Look, she's the one who suggested a really great method of how you get in touch with a buyer with a phone call and email. And she gave us a really good format as to how to have the perfect 15 to 20 second pitch that you use when you call a buyer to get their attention. So, you know, you really only have a few seconds, and people think 15 seconds is a short while, but it's really a long time when you think about it. 15 seconds, like 1, 2, 3.
Right.
I mean, that's already 5 seconds, and it felt like eternity when you're not saying anything. So
I was in an earthquake one time in San Francisco that was for 15 seconds. It felt like the last 15 seconds of my life.
It's a long time, but it forces you to really be succinct in what you're saying, and to give them, you know, to catch their attention as to why they should want your line. You know, like, why does your line matter to me?
So it's like the elevator speech that you're talking about at chamber meetings.
Yes, and that pitch you can use in person as well, because you don't have to rely just on phone and email to get in contact with a buyer. If you know, especially if they're a boutique, and this is when I would only recommend you going door to door to each store, is if they're a boutique. If they're a department store, you're not going to catch the buyer at the store. Mm-hmm. But if you're a boutique, or if you're looking for a boutique, there's absolutely no problem with you going in there and seeing if you can talk to someone, and show them a few pictures. Just don't expect to get a meeting right then and there, because it's just pretty disrespectful, and it's like you're not showing any regard for their time. So, but definitely, like, you can use that pitch, you know, on the phone, in person. And it's a really, really great way to just capture people's attention and knowing what to say whenever someone asks you about your line anyway. Okay. So we go through that.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. That sounds perfect.
And then a really, really cool feature about this too is that new designers are always looking for, you know, contact information about buyers or store owners. And we show them a really great way as to how to find that contact information online. So that's a really cool feature as well that's included.
Okay, excellent. So after you've had that meeting, the buyer's not going to tell you right then if they've made a decision. They will get back to you later. How do you handle the follow-up?
Yeah, so the follow-up is everything that we go over in the video modules labeled after the meeting. So we go over the art of follow-up, how to even format, you know, how to format your email with the follow-up, what to say if you pick up the phone and try to follow up with them, and how to pretty much keep them engaged into that whole process. Like I said, some buyers will say, I've got to think about it, or I've got to make sure that I have enough money for this time. I got to see if my upper management will say yes, because a lot of buyers would need some permission from their upper management. So those are the kind of things that you just have to wait out, and just make sure that you're always available for the buyer in case she or he has any questions. And we do go over that a lot, and we also give examples as to the type of hesitations that buyers have and how to combat that as well. And then in regards, or to just keep going about this whole after the meeting process, let's just say the buyer says yes, they write an order. We also go into how to make sure that how you make sure that that order comes in on time, how to handle and make sure that those orders don't get lost. We also go into the process of what to do when the order hits the store. You know, what do you do when the product is selling? What do you do when it's not selling? What do you do if the product is damaged? What do you do if it doesn't fit? All those different scenarios you have to be prepared for. Because if it's selling, you're going to want to make sure you're capitalizing on that, right? If it's not selling, you know, what do you do? What do you do with that? You always want your product to sell. So if it's not selling, what do you do to change that? Okay. So all those things we go over, because like I said, I didn't want to make it a short course where all we talk about is what happens at the meeting. I want to foster growth. I want to foster relationships. And I know all this because I was there. I was a buyer. I know what they want. I know how they think. I know what they look for. And that's the type of message that I wanted to make sure that this course has, because I wanted to produce, you know, results of longevity, not just one sale. I want them to get multiple sales out of this.
It sounds so thorough, so I can't imagine, you know, someone not being successful after going through this process. Let me ask you, like, how long do you think, once someone starts the series, how long does it typically take to get through the whole series?
Well, it depends on your workload. Some people like to just get things done, so they'll watch the entire series in a day or 2 days. I'm one of those people. Once I start something, I kind of just want to finish it and put it to use right away. But I've been talking to some of my customers who have used this, and a lot of them have finished the program within a week, 2 weeks. A few are still kind of taking their time because some people want to watch a video and then practice what they learned, and then go back to it again and practice it again. So it really just depends on it just depends on how you work. But I do offer people a 30-day money-back guarantee because I want to make sure that they're confident in their purchase. And to do that, I wanted them to really just feel like there's no risk. They're going to get great information. And it's just telling them that I'm so confident that this course will give them that edge that they need. So everyone has 30 days to test it out. They have 30 days to, you know, watch the course, take in all the materials, and then practice the knowledge that they get. And if they can prove to us that it didn't work, then we'll give them their money for free. So it's like no loss. No harm, no foul.
But once they pay for it, they have that course forever, right? They're always
they have that course forever, and it's super easy. You just go on our website, www.fabcounsel.com. You pay for the course, and you're automatically able to just log into our members login page and access the course forever. So you don't lose it. If you ever need a refresher, you can just go back. And on top of the videos, you get other materials like a list of trade shows appropriate for different industries because different trade shows are good for different sectors, like, you know, shoes, jewelry, all that stuff. So they get a list of trade shows. They get a buyer checklist to ensure that they're prepared, that they have everything that they need for the meeting. So they get a buyer's checklist about that. The course comes with Q&A capability, so if they still tend to have some questions or maybe they're confused on a certain statement or subject, they'll be able to look at a list of Q&A of questions that we already have, and if they still don't find an answer there, then they can go ahead and contact us and we'll get back to them right away. They also get a list of do's and don'ts from actual buyers and sales reps. So this is like insider information from really, really awesome people in the industry. Like I said, people from Bebe, Nasty Gal, Ted Baker, Lane Crawford, Hot Look. Like, these are awesome people to just really learn from. And I don't even know what other chance you'll get to just have these type of, you know, information from these great caliber of people all in one place. So that's a really cool one. And then people also get 2 videos of my past workshops because, like I said, this whole course was pretty much a product of the workshops that I've had in the past called How to Sell Your Line to Buyers. And they'll be able to hear from my panelists from the Cohesive Group, from Nasty Gal, from Hot Look, who are buyers and sales reps themselves. There's also a bonus video explaining what to look for when you're hiring a showroom or sales rep, because eventually all our emerging designers will get to the point where, you know, they're ready to hire a sales rep or they're ready to hire a showroom. They don't need to do this themselves anymore. So we have a little free video on how to go about that process. And then we also include a resource list of fashion industry tools and contacts. So like people like lawyers, factors. Factors are really helpful when it comes to getting funding for your line when you just need to get some production going. Accountants. So they get a resource list of these fashion industry people, and they get exclusive discounts for being FAB Counsel members. So that's what you get with the whole course.
That's a lot.
It's very yeah, it's a lot. Like, I really wanted it to be so informative, and I've been working on this for a long time. And yeah, I just really wanted to make sure that I'm just so tired of hearing these horror stories about people spending $5,000 or, you know, $500 a month and not having really anything to show for it. Like, I want to eliminate that waste of time and waste of money for these new designers.
That sounds awesome. It's so great that you've put all the time and effort into producing this. It just sounds such a wonderful benefit for people. I'm really excited. FABcounsel.com is where everybody needs to go and check this out. You also offer one-on-one consulting services as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, for people who want a more customized, more tailored guidance, we do offer one-on-one consulting or coaching, and we can do that in person or we can do it online or via phone. It just depends on what your preferences are.
Cool. Well, Mary, thank you so much for your time to explain all this to us and give us all of these tips. It's a lot of really great tips for designers who have their hearts set on selling their line. Thank you so much for everyone who's viewing, and check out FABcounsel.com and come on over to fashionmingle.net and visit us too.